Today, I want to talk about something that is so overlooked and hardly spoken about, which is men's mental health. And sadly, we live in a world where men are taught from a very young age, from the time that they are boys, that they cannot be vulnerable, they cannot open up about their feelings, they need to shut down their emotions, they need to toughen up, they need to man up. And these are the things that society actually pushes on a man, and this leaves a man left with no other option rather than to bottle up all his emotions and feelings without having any kind of healthy way to regulate themselves. And this is not just unhealthy, but this can be so devastating for a man when it comes to his emotional growth. So, in today's video, we are actually going to talk about why men tend to bottle up feelings more than a woman and what can we do to actually break free from that. If you're new here, I'm Vash and I'm a men's relationship coach and I help men heal from their wounded masculinity, attachment issues, and traumas in order for them to build a meaningful connection with women. So, firstly, let's talk about why this happens, why men bottle up their emotions. And this is not just something that happens overnight. This is basically societal and cultural expectations ingrained on a man as well. So, the first reason is societal expectations of toughness, which is ingrained within the society from generations. Like from a very young age, even if you were a boy, you are never encouraged to actually express your emotions in a healthy way. I don't think I have ever seen a household or I have ever seen any parents doing that job correctly where they are allowing young boys to actually express their emotions in a healthy way, teaching them how to regulate their emotions also in a healthy way. Oftentimes, they are also met with different kinds of inconsistency by their parents, their caregivers, which even leads into an abandonment wound being formed. And at the same time, they do not have any safe space for them to express their emotions, which can actually regulate their nervous system and also, their mental health. This is why unconsciously men even feel the need to suppress their emotions so that they can fit into this mold of toughness that the society expects of them. Unfortunately, when you suppress your emotions for way too long, this is something that leads you into a state of anxiety and depression, and this is something that erodes your mental well being on a permanent scale. You might not actually sense the effect of this very soon, but over time, the buildup keeps happening, and this is when one day you eventually end up exploding when you do not have those resources to actually handle or regulate your own self. The second thing is the fear of being perceived as weak or getting judgment from other people. Men often fear being judged by others, especially from other men, because they have an internal thought process which makes them believe that if they are vulnerable, they will be perceived as someone who is weak. And this is something that every man thinks about himself and also the people around him. But that is not the truth. Okay, there is a difference between you expressing your vulnerability to a woman versus you expressing your vulnerability to a man. If you can find yourself in places or company with other men where you can actually express yourself vulnerably, you have no idea how much emotional healing that can actually bring towards you. Vulnerability is not weakness. There is a lot of strength in being vulnerable to someone else and telling them, hey, you are not doing okay. And for you to even reach that stage to say that to someone else, you need to firstly acknowledge your emotions, the things you are suppressing within yourself, the way you are even belittling your emotions without giving it a healthy outlet to express itself. And also because of the things that I mentioned earlier, generally people and society do not know how to hold that space for a man to actually express himself freely. Usually men isolate themselves to deal with stress, whereas women are wired to handle stress through connection. The moment a woman speaks to a woman, it feels like, their stress is basically dissolving, not just to another woman, even if she speaks to another man as well. But at the same time, men are, wired to handle stress because evolutionarily men are meant to protect and provide the entire tribe. But at the same time, it cannot be at the cost of your own mental well being. Okay, even if you do not have any safe space for you to express your emotions, are you holding a container within yourself? Are you creating a safe space within your own self? Because we as human beings, we can even do that. But it's not at the cost of, distracting yourself or belittling your emotions or suppressing your emotions and feeling there is nothing wrong, or even going into that kind of victim mentality where you feel like there is nobody to hold space for you. This is a very key indicator of you being unable to hold the space for yourself, which is actually stopping you from expressing your emotions to other people as well, because in a way, you do not acknowledge your own emotions. And these are some of the consequences of actually not expressing your emotions or not learning the art of emotional regulation altogether. The first consequence is increased anxiety and depression. Anxiety is a state where you're actually predicting danger well ahead of time before anything has even happened. Depression is a state where you are actually feeling bad about something that's happened in the past. In no space and time, you are actually present in the present moment when you are anxious or when you are depressed. And this often happens because of unresolved traumas or unresolved emotions that you have within yourself. Especially if you've grown up in a tough household, if you've had a hard childhood growing up, you have basically never in your life let out your emotions. You've never expressed yourself in a healthy manner, and all you have done probably in your entire life is bottle up your emotions. You might consciously and logically tell yourself that there's nothing wrong with you, but your body keeps the score. Your body never forgets, and your subconscious mind will always remember all the traumas and unresolved emotions that is being stored within itself. At the end of the day, you might think everything is fine, but eventually all these emotions are going to catch up to you if you do not work on them, if you do not resolve your abandonment issues, if you don't resolve your anxiety or your depression. This is when a man's mental health actually takes a hit, and these are the situations where he completely isolates himself because he does not know the art of emotional regulation. Now, regulation can happen when you speak to someone else, but there are a lot of ways you can soothe yourself. You can actually do different kind of modalities like EFT tapping. You can do meditations to control your emotions by yourself, because at the end of the day, even if society is not able to hold that space for you, at least you can learn how to manage your emotions, or even work with someone, a therapist, or if you want to get coached by me, you can even reach out to me as well on my Instagram. Find those healthy ways to actually express your emotions. The second consequence of not taking care of your mental health is developing unhealthy coping mechanisms. Now, the biggest way this can manifest is in addictions. Now, men have a lot of different kind of addictions, which we all know about, and this is nothing but a coping mechanism, because in that moment you are basically seeking an instant dopamine hit in your brain so that you can feel better. But eventually, this is not going to satisfy you. This is not going to give you a sense of long term peace. And at the end of the day, addictions are nothing but a way to actually mask the inner pain, the inner loneliness, or the inner suffering that you are carrying within yourself. These behaviors can actually be a temporary relief, but this is not going to solve the root cause of why you're feeling that in the very first place. And for you to solve the root cause, you have to go back in your past. You have to fix all the things that happened to you in your own head, not by speaking to other people. This is where you start processing your emotions and start processing your trauma as well. Because at the end of the day, if you resort to these addictions, you're basically just keeping yourself stuck in that cycle of not breaking out of this pattern altogether. The third consequence is strained relationship, especially with women. Now, these are the situations where you can even have attachment issues like avoidant attachment issues or anxious attachment issues, because in both cases, you are basically fearing how this relationship is going to turn out. When you're anxious, you're basically predicting the danger of how the relationship can turn out. And when you're avoidant, you're keeping yourself at an arm's distance from the relationship because you are scared of vulnerability and you are scared of intimacy. In both the cases, you are not going to be able to form genuine connections with women specifically, and this might also result in you not being happy, because at the end of the day, we are humans. We need connection. We are wired for attachment. And if you don't have a healthy connection or relationship with yourself, there is no way you can form a healthy connection with the woman as well, because you are going to project your worst fears onto that connection, and that is very detrimental towards your relationship. And this is something that causes the relationship to even end in the very first place. The fourth consequence is a sense of male loneliness, and especially in today's age and time, male loneliness is increasing considerably a lot. The most dangerous consequence of this is isolation. You feel that you probably do not want to become a burden on other people, and you also feel that you don't want to be perceived as weak, but you are essentially destroying your own health in this very process, because your cortisol level, which is a stress hormone in your body, will always be at a very high stage. And this is the way you're going to stress yourself. This is going to manifest itself in the form of some or the other kind of human diseases. Have you heard of men, especially in their 30s or 40s, getting sudden kind of heart attacks? Why is this happening? Because there's so much unresolved trauma, stress, so many different things that's stored within the body, and the body eventually will catch up with you. Because at the end of the day, if your body is not in a state of homeostasis, which is a state of rest, it's basically fighting to keep your nervous system in a calm state. You will constantly be in a state of fight or flight, which is not going to allow your immune cells to basically do its own job and prevent diseases from happening even in your body. So the risk of isolation is actually much worse for a man than it is for a woman. Now, let's talk about some of the ways where you can break free from this. Firstly, reach out to other people and create safe spaces to express your emotions. If someone is not able to handle your emotion and if someone is not holding the space for you, then that person does not belong in your life. Reach out to your male friends and start opening up about your own problems. Now, there is a very fine line between how much you should be opening up to a woman, because in a lot of cases, women do not know how to hold a man's emotions. So you need to find that safety first within your male circle. Start reaching out to other people, because you might think that men are going to judge you, but I have seen this enough and more times that men actually do not judge other men, whereas they can actually resonate with what the other person is even going through. So start seeking help from your male friends and start opening up about what you are going through, and start building that sense of mutual, genuine connection between your male friends first. It is very crucial for you to find friends who are basically understanding the things you are going through without that sense of judgment. And another thing you can possibly do is express your emotions to a female friend who you do not have a romantic connection with. Because women who are smart enough or emotionally intelligent enough can also hold the space for you. But do not overexpress yourself and do not be in a constant state of vulnerability in front of a woman who you are in a relationship with. That is where the ground starts getting a little bit tricky. The second thing is develop a sense of emotional awareness. Be so in tune with your body, be connected with your body that anytime you feel anxiety, anytime you feel sadness, you're able to locate that within your body. Instead of living from your mind, start connecting to your heart center, start connecting to your heart, because this is very crucial for you to identify what are the emotions that's moving through you. You can even sit in a state of meditation, you can observe your body parts. There's a technique known as body scan where you actually think of your head, you connect to your head space, you connect to your arms, you connect to your stomach, because men are very dissociated from their body. And if you're in a state of anxiety, or if you're in a state of depression or sadness, for instance, firstly, what you need to do is locate where you feel that sensation in your body, and you need to focus on that sensation for, let's say, 3 to 4 minutes. When you give attention to that sensation, that is when the sensation starts disintegrating itself into nothingness. This is one of the easiest and best ways for you as a man to actually process your emotion. The third thing is practice self compassion. Okay, if other people are not able to hold space for you, at least learn to hold that space for yourself. Stop judging yourself for having these kind of emotions. And forget judgment from society. Men judge themselves so many times thinking they are not supposed to feel sad, they are not supposed to feel a certain emotion. This is where you're basically not even meeting or creating a safe space for your own self. If you can't do that for yourself, how do you expect someone else to do that for you? Be kind to yourself. Tell yourself it's okay to not be all right every single time. And it's okay to show signs of weakness. You are not a robot at the end of the day. You are just a human being who has emotions, who is navigating through life's ups and downs. So it's okay to actually give yourself that grace to be weak, to be sad. And it's completely fine, but at the same time, if you feel you're going to be judged by it, you're going to get the same reaction from other people, because your outer world at the end of the day is just a reflection of what is in your inner world. The fourth thing is break the masculinity stereotype. Being masculine does not mean being tough and strong every single day of your life. Strength is something that comes from within, strength is something that comes with confidence when you have a high self esteem, when you have a high self worth. When does that happen? When you have accepted yourself for who you are as a person. You see every part of yourself, your light parts and your shadow parts. You face your inner demons, but you don't judge yourself for that. And you completely accept yourself with unconditional love, not for your achievements, but just for you being the person that you are. It's about being comfortable with yourself and your emotions and not bottling them up and not judging yourself for it. That is where real strength actually comes from. Because when you're constantly in a state of regulating yourself, regulating your own emotions and your nervous system, you will see that confidence within you starting to increase. This is where you eventually stop even going in a loop of feeling anxious or even feeling depressed. So it's time to actually stop bottling up your emotions and understand that your mental health matters, because eventually, if you're going to beat yourself up for having emotions, you're not helping yourself at all. Break free from all those societal pressures and break free from your own expectation of how you should be. Start writing a new story for yourself so that you can make yourself happy and not just depend on other people to make you happy. When you learn to hold space for yourself, this is where other people show up around you and they start holding the space for yourself. And oftentimes, when you actually hold space for yourself, you will notice and you will come to a conclusion that you don't actually need other people to hold that space, because you are completely confident within yourself, because you accept yourself. Usually, people break out, or usually, people go out of control when they feel that there's nobody around them who is supporting them, because in a way, they don't know how to also support themselves. So, this is your sign to actually start working on yourself, healing yourself if you have any traumas. And if you want to get coached by me, you can find me on my Instagram and reach out to me through the link that I've mentioned in the description box below. I hope this episode was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.